looks like it really was Agatha all along, as Marvel releases the first teaser trailer for its upcoming Katheryn Hahn-led series that is said to be the first true horror story in the Marvel Universe. Is this true, or will it be another Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness? Stick around to find out. I'm Brennan Sem for the New Wave Nerds. Subscribe down below for more nerd content and commentary. Now let's get into the news. First up here, we have the brand new teaser trailer available at the Marvel Entertainment YouTube channel. We'll just play a little bit here for you. Notably, it is definitely...
Another beautiful day.
Surprised to see you out here, detective.
Projects.
Jane Doe, found her down here by the water.
Cause?
Blunt force trauma.
What happened to you? I have a lead in the case, but can't shake this feeling I'm seeing it wrong.
Is this really how you see yourself?
That witch is gone, leaving you trapped in her distorted spell. Claw your way out. I miss the glory days. She took every bit of power I had, but I can beat that witch again. Well, the gang's all here. Let's hit the road.
Yes, let's hit the road indeed. I'm not going to watch the rest of the trailer. Go look it up for yourself. I think, this is an interesting show. The trailer itself is moderately fun and interesting, and it piqued my interest more than the news had been surrounding this. It was something that... This is a show that I definitely wasn't waiting for, I wasn't necessarily excited for, but the trailer does look interesting. It looks like we're exploring a different side of the MCU than normal. Obviously, we've got a possessed demon there, or rather not possessed, but a demon there, which is, an interesting kind of design. I would think if you're trying to go actual horror with this, then you maybe wouldn't want to show that in the actual trailer. You would want to save that as a jump scare for the show itself. But what do I know? I don't know. I just find it hard to believe that this series is going to be actually horror, right? I mean, I'm sure it's going to have some horror elements. We've got demons and witches, and I'm sure there's going to be some dark stuff here happening. But I can't believe that it's going to be true horror. And we've got this quote here from Brad Winderbaum, which he gave on the official Marvel podcast. I would say go give it a listen. It's only 30-minute episodes. It is definitely a corporatized, sort of marketing podcast. They don't exactly explore any, outlandish stuff, but they do have some interesting interviews. Last episode was with Kevin Feige, and they talked about Fantastic Four. And now we have Brad Winderbaum, who is the head of television and animation, and there's something, I think it's television, streaming, and animation. And he says, it's really fun, but it's really scary, and it gets quite dramatic. She's an amazing anti-hero that show lures you in with the fun of Halloween, and before you know it, you're crying. There are deadly stakes. It's a fun ride, but it's a dangerous one. And again, I just can't believe that it's going to be really scary, right? I don't believe that. As much as I would like for the MCU and for Marvel to sort of expand out into the horror genre and see more stuff, I've talked about before how I like when tried and true franchises explore other avenues, right? That was one of the reasons that I was initially excited for The Acolyte. I liked the idea that we were getting a sort of a detective mystery in Star Wars. I thought it was fun. If you want to hear my whole thoughts on that, go listen to our episodes, the episodes that Shade and I have done on I believe we did the first 5 episodes. Did we even talk about episode 5? Not important. But truthfully, I mean, this is the same line that they told us about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That was also marketed as a horror film. And, it was directed by Sam Raimi, and so it was supposed to have these horror chops. It was supposed to be something that was scary, and it really just wasn't. And that's what I think is going to happen with this too. They're going to sort of build it up like it's an actual horror series, and they're going to be maybe a few jump scares and stuff, but it's going to be overshadowed by the campy comedy, right? Because here's the thing: is that the stars of this show are mostly comedy actors. I mean, we've got Aubrey Plaza, who has definitely branched out and done a little bit more lately, but then we also have Katheryn Hahn. Like, these are comedic actors. And in the trailer itself, there is a scene that I get the sense is supposed to be a sort of horror vibe. It's supposed to be sort of scary. And Aubrey Plaza is just making jokes in the middle of it, right? Which is what you would expect from Aubrey Plaza. It's what you would expect from a character played by her, and it's kind of what you would expect from Marvel. But it's just not horror, right? It's just not truthfully all that scary. And so I don't understand why we're billing this as though it's going to be an actual horror film or horror series. I can't believe that in the least. I think it's, like I said, I think it's going to have probably a few scary elements that aren't actually going to be scary, but they're supposed to be scary. They're sort of lean into that horror aspect. But ultimately, this is going to be, a comedic Marvel show. I don't know. Ultimately, like I said, the trailer definitely piqued my interest a little bit, but this is not one that I'm going to be waiting for. Now, to get a little bit more info about the series itself, why don't we jump to this article from IGN. Agatha All Along reveals first trailer showing off MCU horror vibes. Who's been messing up everything? It's been Agatha all along. Anyways, Agatha All Along is finally, that's a good song. It's well, I don't know if it's good, but it's very catchy. So it's good in that sense. It's a wonderful marketing tactic. Agatha All Along is finally descending into the Marvel Cinematic Universe this September, and its first trailer is here to show us what mythical horrors Katheryn Hahn and co. have been cooking up. The 2-minute trailer for the latest Disney Plus spin-off strikes a different tone than most other MCU projects. Its opening moments reveal a show with a darker tone. It's a darker tone until we get past the minute into the trailer when we get to see Katheryn Hahn being the actual Agatha personality. Once she's broken free of this enchantment, I guess, that Wanda has put on her, we just abandon the darker tone almost entirely. As Agatha deals with her lack of powers. As she investigates dead bodies and what appears to be a new friend in the mysterious character played by Aubrey Plaza, she'll introduce more horror elements into Marvel's universe of characters. While horror has only been touched on in projects like Werewolf by Night, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, and What If, Agatha All Along looks like it will introduce its own demons and possessed entities to deal with. You can see Hahn, Plaza, and a post-WandaVision world in the trailer below. Now, that's one thing that I will say. I do often forget about Werewolf by Night. I've only seen it the one time when we did our Halloween special review of it. I really, really liked that. I thought it was incredibly fun. And I can't remember the guy's name now, but it was directed by he who composed the score for the Batman. Let me just look it up fast while I'm talking here. Because I think it was very well done, and I thought it was incredibly fun. I spelled werewolf wrong. Werewolf by Night. Obviously the comparison to Doctor Strange is obviously pretty, hopefully isn't too prescient, right? Because as I mentioned before, Multiverse of Madness was billed as a horror film, and then it just wasn't, it really wasn't. And it wasn't even a good, superhero movie, in my opinion. The director of Werewolf by Night is Michael Giacchino, if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know. I'm not Italian. But again, that was really fun. So if you haven't seen that, I would definitely recommend going and giving that a watch. But here's my thing about this show, is that ultimately, I don't understand why it's being made. Right? I don't know why this is the character that we chose to highlight. I don't know why this is the series that they decided to pursue. There's so many other characters that are much more interesting. There are characters that have had an impact in the MCU and will presumably have an impact moving forward. I don't know. This just is weird to me. This strikes me as, they made this show because people liked that character. This strikes me as more fan service than actual story service, right? I don't know how much this is going to necessarily move the needle. I don't know necessarily how much this is going to actually impact things outside of this series. And like I said, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of that character in WandaVision. I mean, I really enjoyed Agatha's arc in that series. I thought it was very fun and very interesting, but I did not like the portrayal of Katheryn Hahn. It was so campy. It was just meh, in my opinion. I would have liked to have seen something a little bit more serious, considering how the rest of that show kind of moves forward, right? I would have liked to have a dark, serious witch who is after Wanda Maximoff's chaos magic. I would have liked to have seen, a Katheryn Hahn, an Agatha Harkness that is much closer to what we get to see in the comics, but that's just me. I don't know if she's worthy of her own show. I know that there have been a lot of people who are really excited about this because, like I said, they enjoyed the character. I just don't understand why she's getting her own series. I just don't get it. There are so many other characters whose stories could be pursued. I mean, just off the top of my head, and this is, the kibosh has been put on this thanks to that, let's just say, incredible series that was Secret Invasion. What was Secret Invasion? Oh, this is Maria Hill. Maria Hill deserved her own show. Maria Hill is a character who has been in the MCU since the Avengers. She is one of the oldest characters. She has appeared in so many other projects. She's been around. She's been there. And Maria Hill is a character that is important in the comics. So many things happen around her. I mean, at one point, she even becomes the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think the better way to do that is instead of, spoiler alert, instead of killing her off in Secret Invasion, why doesn't, Sam Jackson leave helping out the Skrulls or whatever? He's got his beautiful little kiss with his Skrull wife, and they head off into the ship. Why doesn't Maria Hill get her own series after that where she attempts to rebuild S.H.I.E.L.D.? Or she attempts to maybe they, have to rebrand it because S.H.I.E.L.D. has such a bad rap following Winter Soldier. But why don't we get a series where she builds up an intelligence apparatus? That would be so interesting to me. Then we get the actual spy thriller in the MCU that I've been asking for so long. We touched on it with Winter Soldier. I mean, that was it's one of my favorite Marvel movies. But I think the ball was dropped with Black Widow, with the Black Widow movie. That could have been a really, really interesting spy thriller, and instead they decided to go over the top and make it, a superhero film. I just don't understand. That series, this Maria Hill series, could be so good because not only do you have an interesting story that is, you could do a spy thriller, an intrigue story, you have a strong female lead, right? You have a character who people enjoy, who is important in the comics, and who has an impact on the MCU the Marvel Universe writ large. Maria Hill is so important. I don't understand why they killed her off, and I don't understand why she didn't get her own series, and yet Agatha gets her own series. It's so weird to me. Now, there is one way that I think that, in my eyes, you can, make this series worth it by having an impact on the MCU. And that's by introducing a demon lord, I suppose. But it's by introducing a character that has been talked about so long, or who has been talked about coming into Marvel for so long. I mean, there were rumors that he was going to be appearing in WandaVision itself, and that is Mephisto, right? This is somebody that we've talked about here quite a bit. He's such an interesting character, and he takes place in so many stories. I've discussed how I think they should introduce him so that we can get a series following Doctor Doom and Doctor Strange, and follow the I always say it wrong, Triumph and Torment comic series. It's just a couple issues, and it's an amazing story that gives you such good insight into both characters. I don't know. This is the first way that comes into my mind to sort of tie this into the broader MCU and make this series actually worth it. I think he would be such an interesting villain. But honestly, it doesn't look like they're going to go that way. And maybe he will have an aside or a brief cameo that will hopefully lead into other things. But ultimately, I'd seriously doubt that is going to be the direction that they take this. I think that would be really, really interesting. Let's get back to I was going to say something, but I'll save it for a little bit. Let's get back to the IGN article. Agatha all along has been in the works for years and follows the events of 2021's beloved MCU show, WandaVision. The series spelled out dark days for the future of the ever-expanding comic book universe, and now we finally get to see how Agatha is faring following her defeat. That's a lot of Fs. Han's return as the titular magic-wielding character has been highly anticipated for years, mostly because fans couldn't get enough of the catchy song that shares a name with the upcoming show. The little jingle that I iterated at the beginning of the article. A few name changes and a promise to deliver real MCU horror later, and Agatha all along is nearly at our doorstep. Yeah, so the name changes is a thing. Originally, the show was called... let me remember the timeline. It was Agatha the Darkhold Diaries, and then after that, it was Agatha House of Harkness, and then after that, it was Agatha Coven of Chaos, and now we have Agatha All Along, which I think is an actually interesting marketing tactic for it to be Agatha All Along, assuming that they had this name picked out and they did want to do that marketing. If they did, I would think that they would have built it a little more. They would have sort of hit home that marketing PR stunt a little bit more. But I think it is a fun idea that I've been seeing, that this was always the title, and so they've been changing it to sort of lean into that Agatha All Along aspect. I don't know. I hope that's what it was, because if the name change signifies creative changes behind the scenes, we all know how we feel about that. Almost always creative team changes end up harming the project. Sometimes they can work out for the better, but often they don't, right? And so I hope that it really is a marketing tactic, a marketing ploy, and so then, it shows a little bit more, some interesting ideas. But like I said, if that is actual marketing, I would think that they would have wanted to have billed it as such. But I don't know. Let's finish out this article here. Agatha All Along is one of only a few MCU projects releasing this year. This month we'll see the multiverses cross over with Deadpool and Wolverine, the only MCU film of 2024, on July 26th. Marvel is also set to release other Disney Plus spin-offs like Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which was originally called Spider-Man Freshman Year, and Eyes of Wakanda sometime before the year is out, though those projects remain without release dates. I would be surprised if we get to see them. I mean, we're already, halfway through the year? A little over halfway through the year. It's July now. So I would be surprised if those actually do come out. Brad Winderbaum in the official Marvel podcast did say some interesting things about the two of these. I guess I don't necessarily remember what he said about Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, because they only talked about it for like 30 seconds. But he did say that Eyes of Wakanda is really interesting, and that it ties into the MCU more than any of the other animated projects that they've done. And it follows Wakandan warriors attempting to retrieve vibranium artifacts, and he said throughout time periods. Now, I don't know what that means. Does that mean we're going to be getting time jumps? Are we going to be seeing back all the way to like World War II to tie in a little bit of Captain America First Avenger? Are we going to be going to Captain Marvel? Or are we just, when he says time periods, does he just mean like pre or post Endgame, right? Like, I don't know. It's a little bit weird. It was a little bit of a ambiguous statement, but that one is definitely one that I'm excited for. Agatha All Along premieres with 2 episodes on September 18th of 2024, so we got just over 2 months away. Let me know down below, is this one that you guys are interested in seeing? Or like me, do you think it may be fun, but there are other projects that we should have pursued in the MCU? That's where I'm at. Let me know down below for sure. Like and subscribe for more content. We'll be back here tomorrow with a brand new news segment, and I will see you guys then.